They say every house has secrets, but Clara's held something darker. It started with a simple mistake: boiling water poured down a sink. What followed was a curse that burned itself into her family's future. This is the Scalding Sin. Clara and her husband Daniel had just moved into the old creaking house on the edge of the village. It wasn't much, but it was theirs, and they planned to fill it with love and a growing family. One winter night, while Daniel worked late, Clara tried to unclog the kitchen sink. Frustrated after hours of plunging, she boiled a kettle of water and poured it down the drain. Steam hissed up and the clog seemed to clear. She wiped her hands, satisfied, and thought nothing of it. That night, Clara was woken by a faint noise coming from the pipes. At first, it sounded like water bubbling, but then it became something else, a high-pitched, almost human wail. She sat up, listening, her skin prickling. It stopped as suddenly as it started, and she convinced herself it was just the old plumbing. The noises returned, growing louder each night. It wasn't just the pipes anymore. Sometimes Clara swore she could hear something moving beneath the floorboards. When she told Daniel, he laughed it off, saying the house was old and settling. But Clara couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The gut feeling is always right. Another afternoon, a wandering herbalist knocked on their door, offering remedies. Clara invited her in, eager for company. But as the old woman approached the kitchen, her face paled. She stared at the sink, her voice trembling. "You've wronged something beneath this house," she said. "Something that doesn't forgive." Clara's stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" The woman shook her head. "You will see," she whispered, and hurried out the door, leaving Clara with a growing sense of dread. A few months later, Clara was overjoyed to learn she was pregnant. The strange noises in the house had stopped by then, and she began to believe the herbalist had been a superstitious old fool. She and Daniel prepared for the baby, filling the nursery with soft blankets and handmade toys. But when the baby was born, joy turned to sorrow. Its skin was raw and blistered, as if burnt alive. The midwife screamed and fled the house. Daniel stood frozen, his face pale with shock. Clara held the baby close, tears streaming down her face, unable to understand what had gone wrong. The whispers in the village began immediately. Some said the baby's condition was a punishment for sin. Others said Clara was cursed. Daniel, desperate for answers, blamed the midwife, the doctor, even Clara herself. But deep down, Clara remembered the herbalist's words and the night she poured boiling water into the sink. When her second child was born the same way, Clara could no longer ignore the truth. She sought out the herbalist, who listened silently as Clara sobbed and begged for help. "You poured boiling water into your sink, didn't you?" the woman asked. Clara nodded, her voice shaking. "What does that have to do with this?" The herbalist sighed. "Your house sits on a reef, a passage to another world. That water didn't just go down the drain. It scalded the offspring of something ancient, a demon. Now it's marked you. Every child you bear will carry its pain." Clara staggered home, her mind reeling. That night, while Daniel slept, she sat by the sink, staring at the drain. She didn't sleep or eat for days, consumed by guilt and desperation. When her third pregnancy ended the same way, Clara knew she had to confront whatever was beneath her home. Late one night, she pried open the floorboards beneath the sink, where she found a narrow, wet tunnel leading deep into earth. The air was thick and stifling and faint. Wells echoed from below. Against every instinct, Clara crawled inside. The tunnel opened into a cavern, and in the dim light of lantern, Clara saw it. A creature crawled in the darkness, its shadows blending with the night. Its charred, cracked skin glistened as it cradled small burnt figures in its arms. Its children. You, the demon hissed, its voice like steam escaping a kettle. You burned them. Clara fell to her knees, trembling. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't mean to. The demon's glowing eyes bore into her. And now you feel what I feel. Every child you bring into this world will carry my children's pain, unless it leaned closer, its breath hot against her skin. You gave me something in return. Clara's voice broke. What do you want? Your life, the demon said. Serve me here in the darkness. If you do, I will spare your children. Tears streamed down Clara's face as she thought of her husband, her life above ground, and the tiny blistered faces of her babies. Clara lowered her lantern and stepped into the darkness, her figure disappearing into the cavern. She was never seen or heard from again.